Today we're going to focus on a country that many people have never heard of, or don't know much about. It's where Africa's westernmost point is located, it was uninhabited until the 15th century, and its population is of mixed European and African heritage. The name of the country is Cape Verde. Well, that's its English name. But the country's government prefers that we call it by its Portuguese name, Cabo Verde, even when speaking English. So let's follow the country's wishes and call it Cabo Verde, rather than incur the government's wrath. Cabo Verde is an island nation off the west coast of Africa, consisting of 9 major islands and a few smaller ones. The islands are between 600 and 850 kilometers from the African mainland. Cabo Verde's land area is 4,033 square kilometers. This puts it among the smallest countries in the world. It's around the same size as Rhode Island, the smallest state in the USA. It also has an appropriately small population of around 550,000 people, similar to the population of Luxembourg or Malta. Nearly all of them speak Cape Verdean Creole as their native language, which is a Portuguese-based Creole language. Why is that? Cabo Verde was uninhabited when it was discovered in the year 1456 by Portuguese and Genoese explorers. The islands became a Portuguese colony and a center of the transatlantic slave trade, where enslaved Africans were bought and sold, and where slave ships restocked supplies before the long journey across the Atlantic. Cabo Verde also had its own sugar plantations that were worked by African slaves, some of whom were later sold onto slave ships. Others remained on the islands, and the current population of Cabo Verde mainly descends from a combination of European settlers and African slaves, and the majority are of mixed racial background. Cabo Verde gained independence from Portugal in 1975. As a developing country mostly lacking in natural resources, Cabo Verde has always been a country with lots of immigration. Currently, the size of Cabo Verde's diaspora around the world is larger than the population of the country itself, at around 700,000 people. The largest diaspora communities are in Portugal and in the United States. Not all members of the Cape Verdean diaspora... Wait, can I say Cape Verdean, or do I need to say Cabo Verdeano? I don't know, government let me know. Not all members of the Cape Verdean diaspora are recent immigrants. In fact, Cape Verdeans have lived along the east coast of the United States since the 1740s and often crewed whaling ships based in Massachusetts. Today, there are around 65,000 people of Cape Verdean background living in Massachusetts. In recent years, this story has reversed, and Cabo Verde now receives more immigrants from West Africa, China, and Western Europe, attracted by its economy, which is the most prosperous in West Africa. It's also a stable democracy, having held its first democratic elections in 1991. The political system is modeled after that of Portugal, with a directly elected president, who is head of state, and a prime minister chosen by the legislature, who's the head of government. Portuguese is the official language and is used in official capacities and in education. However, nearly every person in Cabo Verde speaks Cape Verdean Creole as their native language. Cape Verdean Creole is a Portuguese-based Creole language. Contact between Europeans and Africans in the Portuguese colonies of West Africa resulted in an improvised pidgin language containing mainly Portuguese words, and that pidgin language developed into Cape Verdean Creole, as well as a number of closely related languages in other areas. While the government has committed to making Cape Verdean Creole co-official alongside Portuguese, this has not happened yet due to the difficulty of standardizing the language's vocabulary and spelling. Since it's an island nation, Cabo Verde has no land borders, but it shares international maritime borders with Mauritania and Senegal. Along with the Azores, the Canary Islands, and the Madeira archipelago, Cabo Verde is part of the Macaronesia region of volcanic islands off the African and European coasts. The name Macaronesia comes from Greek and means Islands of the Fortunate. They're called that because they are associated with islands of Greek mythology where only heroes favored by the gods were accepted into paradise. Physical geography. The islands making up Cabo Verde formed due to volcanic activity about 20 million years ago. The eastern islands emerged first, and the western islands followed around 10 million years later. Today, volcanic activity is restricted to the island of Fogo and the Pico do Fogo, an active volcano which is the highest point of the country and all of West Africa, at 2,829 meters high. The volcano last erupted in November 2014, an eruption which continued into February of 2015. While many volcanic islands are rich in minerals and extremely fertile, Cabo Verde is not. The primary reason for this is that the prevailing winds blow from the northeast, exposing Cabo Verde to the hot, dry winds from the Sahara Desert. These winds have stripped away the rich topsoil and sped up the process of erosion. Most of Cabo Verde has a hot, arid climate because of its position near the Sahara Desert. Rainfall can vary wildly though, depending on the exact location. Some valleys on the western islands receive 1,000 millimeters of rain annually, although most locations get less than a tenth of that. A short, rainy season takes place from August to October, but the rest of the year is mostly dry. Temperatures are consistently warm as well, with less than 5 degrees of variation between the hottest month and the coldest month. Because of their close proximity to the Sahara, the eastern islands of Maio, Boa Vista, and Sal have undergone much erosion and are very flat. One benefit of this is their white sandy beaches. The beaches on the island of Sal are particularly famous and attract many visitors. Being further away from the Sahara, the western islands have suffered less erosion and contain more varied topography with steep valleys, jagged cliffs, plateaus, and coastal plains. The majority of Cabo Verde's population lives on the western island of Santiago. This is where you'll find Praia, the capital and largest city of Cabo Verde. Largest doesn't mean large though. Praia has a population of just 160,000. The city was built on a high plateau which made it easier to defend from pirate attacks. Most of Praia's streets were laid down in the 19th century, so the city has wide boulevards lined with colonial-era mansions. Main streets like Cabral Avenue are emblematic of the city's relative prosperity. Economy. Regionally, Cabo Verde has a relatively prosperous economy and is at or near the top of the list of African countries in the Human Development Index. Lacking in natural resources, it has a different economic profile than other West African countries, being based around services, with close to 70% of its GDP coming from commerce, public services, and transportation. Cabo Verde's strategic location in the Atlantic has made it a hub for both air and sea travel via its seaports and international airports. One natural resource the islands do possess is fish. The fishing industry provides around 10% of GDP and 70% of total exports. Most of the island's land is not suitable for agriculture, but the island of Fogo is where the country's historical vineyards are located. The vineyards were destroyed by the eruption of Pico do Fogo in 2014 and 15, but are once again active and producing wine. Cabo Verde harnesses the power of wind as one of its main energy sources. The same winds that eroded much of the soil are ideal for generating wind power, and the islands aim to be powered entirely by renewable energy by the year 2025. Cabo Verde is known for its vibrant culture. The presence of both Western Europeans and Africans during the founding and growth of the former colony resulted in a totally new culture, rather than two different ones living side by side. This cultural syncretism is seen in its music, like Morna, which is considered the national music of Cabo Verde and is usually sung in Creole. Cabo Verde also has a rich literary tradition in both Cape Verdean Creole and Portuguese. The cuisine of Cabo Verde also resulted from a mix of influences from West African and Portuguese cuisine. One of the country's staple dishes is capucha, a kind of stew made from beans, corn kernels, vegetables, and fish or meat. The architecture of Cabo Verde was also heavily based on Portuguese architecture, with some added African elements, especially in the countryside. Cabo Verde is certainly not the most famous country in the world, but when you start to learn a little bit about it, you discover how interesting of a place it is. Its physical geography results from the collision of its volcanic origins with its location next to the Sahara Desert, and its present population and culture developed from the mixing of Portuguese and African cultures. The blending of all these different elements has resulted in a country that's unlike anywhere else in Africa, or anywhere in the world. Now over to you. In the video, you heard that Cabo Verde doesn't have a lot of natural resources, though it does have some, like fish. What natural resources does your country have? Are they important to the economy? And to people from Cabo Verde, as well as the Cape Verdean diaspora, what's something you love about your country that you would like others to know? Leave your answers in the comments down below. If you would like to see videos on this channel before anyone else, become a member of this channel